Thank you, and we will end with Mr. Denson.
Thank you. And in 1 minute, some specific policies. The affordable housing trust fund that we have in place, we need to be using that money to not only be able to subsidize the construction of affordable housing here for Athenians, but also using that fund so that we can do down payment assistance for people who are trying to be able to purchase their first home and are having a hard time finding that financing. Outside of that, we also have the inclusionary housing ordinance that we need to be expanding. When I was on the commission, I was one of the individuals who worked on that policy and got it in place. We need to expand it so that when we do have these individuals coming in here building student housing, they will have to take a portion of their funding and put that aside into that affordable housing trust fund so that we can use that money to build affordable housing here. The last thing I'll say specifically on student housing is we need to create a student housing overlay district close to the university so that whenever this housing is being built, it's being encouraged to be built around the university and not gentrified into other neighborhoods.
Thank you so much, Mr. Denson, and thank you to all of you. We'll now move on to question number 2 on the topic of budget and fiscal stewardship. Dr. Gant, we'll start with you this time. We all know that the candidates have ideals, platforms, and initiatives that you all have in mind. If you had to cut one existing program in order to fund your top priority, what would you cut and why?
Thank you. Yes, budgeting has to be priority. I do believe that a governing body has to be a good steward, an effective steward of the resources that we have. I don't know that it would necessarily be cutting a particular item, but I would like to see us take an intentional look at our SPOS program as we move forward. I think historically, just from reviewing all of our SPOS programs and projects, it typically, it has a wish list of a variety of different things. I believe that needs to be more lean. It needs to be more targeted towards specific problems like infrastructure and maybe a few others. But I think that we have used SPOS in a way that has not been as intentional, and I would like to see us be more intentional about our SPOS funds.
Thank you so much. Same question. If you had to cut one existing program to fund your top priority, what would you cut and why?
As a new mayor, I cannot, on this side of the seat, make such a reckless decision about cutting one program over the other. But one of the first things that I would do is take a look at the budget, which is already enforced, see what line items we have, and I would make it my business for leadership to cut those programs that are non-essential, to make sure that our residents have the things that they need that are essential for their lives and their ability to get to work, make money, etc., etc. I would do everything in my power to make sure that happens under my leadership.
I don't think that's, can you hear me? I don't think, like Sharon said, at this point, not being in office, you can make such a decision, because one would have to review the budget, will have to evaluate what is not cost effective, or is not necessary, or meeting program goals. Now this morning I was looking at an article that had just come out that says the ACC manager says expenditures outpace growth of revenue as budget season begins. And he said he expects the county will have to spend some of its rainy day reserves, called the fund balance. And this is probably the last year we can rely on this as way in which we can address those general capital needs. Colin said we're at a point where we can't go into the fund balance anymore. And I stress that because we really do have to evaluate the programs. How effective are they? So from this side of the table, we cannot tell you until we review and start looking at the budget.
Same question. If you could cut one existing program in order to fund your top priority, what would it be and why?
So I've taken it upon myself for my top priorities to not only identify the policies I want to put in place, but actually the ways that we can pay for them. Because we are being challenged, so that we won't have to cut things. The child care subsidy program that I spoke of, the way that I plan on funding that is that we put in place regulation fees for companies that sell vapes and vaping and put an ordinance in place like many other communities have done here in Athens and use those regulation fees to be able to fund a child care subsidy to help working class families afford child care. When it comes to public transit and expanding crosswalks, pedestrian ways, I have in place a policy called inclusionary parking ordinance, where instead of developers building unused parking spaces, they can take half of that fund, don't build it, take half that fund and put it into an inclusionary transportation fund that we can use to fund public transit, sidewalks, bike lanes, crosswalks, all of those things. And then same thing to support downtown businesses and events, putting in place an entertainment district that will have open container ordinance that will be able to
Thank
make
you so much, Mr.
revenue there
Benson.
too.
Thank you so much. And ending with Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. And having done the budget for the last 4 years, and to Dr. Gant's point, probably the first thing that I would cut out is our SPOT program. It's a disaster. Since 2005, we spent $20 million on a private company that manages our SPOT budget. We can do a better job of bringing those resources in-house. I work for the school district. We had 3 people running our SPOT program. We had a director, project manager, and somebody keeping the budget. Macon Bill had 1 person running that SPOT program. So those dollars, those $20 million that we have spent since 2005, those monies could have been spent well in this community. That'd be one of the things that I would cut out, is that project that we're paying outside contractors to do, bring those resources back inside, so that our staff will be able to project, and bring those projects back so we can make sure that they come in on time, under budget. I'm the only candidate up here who have always done SPOT projects, and I know I can get those done.
Thank you so much, candidates. We're now moving on to question 3, which is concerning public safety. Ms. Miller, we will start with you. Many argue that when police officers live in the communities they serve, it can strengthen trust and keep more economic activity within the local area. In Athens-Clarke County, a number of officers live outside the county, raising questions about community connection, in particular with Black youth, local investment, and taxpayer costs. As mayor, if elected, would you support policies that support and encourage or require Athens-Clarke County Police Department officers to live in Athens-Clarke County? Why or why not?
There again, ladies and gentlemen, I would look at the budget. It is not necessarily important, the geographical location of our officers. What is important is engagement. That takes time. That takes time to build relationship. So
I don't believe we can require the police to move here. We can things about encouraging the police to live here. We're also discussing at the same time affordable housing. So we're saying, let's bring them in here, but at the same time, we're saying we don't have housing. So I think that one of the things that we'll have to address if we're looking at encouraging police officers is how do we help them, rent here? And we can look at partnerships. We can try and help them with home ownership. But we really have to think at that situation that if we're asking people to move,
Place where officers could take their cars home if they live in the county. That was reversed, and now that's allowed to happen anywhere. So I would definitely, would be willing to look at creating some incentives, possibly even like a pay bonus for if you live in the county borders, or revisiting that car policy that we had.
Thank you so much. Mr. Fisher.
So those things are going on right now. We offer our officers, if they live in the community, $200 more a month in their paycheck to stay in this community. Also, we work with apartment complexes where some of our officers live there, where their rent is cut. So those are some things that we are already doing to encourage officers to live in this community. I think it's vital that they do live in this community because they need to understand the people that they serve and make sure they get to know those communities better. And they need to get out of those cars and really go and have a conversation with the people that when they're patrolling that area. So there's some things that we are already doing. Those things are in place. And we also give a $3,000 signing bonus when we hire new officers. So there's some things that we're trying to do to make sure we encourage officers to stay in this community.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Gant.
Thank you. What I hear in that question is related to connecting and humanizing the community in which you serve. I don't believe that we can legislate that. I don't believe that we can require that. I believe that when you want to build capacity of an institution or of a profession to connect with the community, then you have to be intentional with their professional development. You have to be intentional by setting expectations. We all know that we can live in the same city and we have totally different lived realities. Living next to a person does not mean that you humanize that person. And so what I would like to see is for us to be more intentional about having expectations of individuals who are in service professions, such as our police officers and any other criminal justice fields. Expectations that we humanize the community that
Thank
we
you,
serve.
Dr. Gant. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you all for that. So we all know that we have certain elements that influence our health and wellness, and we know that health and wellness is encompassed in our policies. And while healthcare is not partisan, it is political. So one question that I would like to ask is, the bridge the gap phrase has been often referenced as a solution to Athens' systemic challenges. What does bridge the gap mean to you in practical terms, and how would you apply this concept to address the mental and physical health disparities in Athens-Clarke County? Ms. Danica, we will start with you.
Well, for me, connecting low income, it would be connecting low income residents to resources. But not only that, but creating a pathway for successful outcomes. I think there's been a lot of conversations about how to do things, reports and discussions, but I don't see a lot of follow-up and action after that. There's a lot of good ideas that are put out there, but the following through and getting some action going, it's not something that I see, because I was looking at an article on SpencerFry.com. It was from September 26, 2025, and I think this will give you an idea of why I think there are things that are not being pushed to act on bridging that gap. According to the article, poverty rate here is 13% higher than the state. The fair market rent is 92% higher than the state. Food insecurity is 18%
Thank you so
as
much,
of
Ms.
2023.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Denzil.
Yeah, and we just heard those, those stats that Ms. Inigo was putting out there. They're big numbers. We have a large gap here in Athens-Clarke County. And we're fooling ourselves if we think we can take it on without taking some bold action and making some really big changes here on how we go about things. We're not going to fix this with just tiny, tiny little steps. And so that's why I am putting like a moonshot out there. It's for my homelessness policy goal, that we can reduce chronic homelessness here in Athens-Clarke County by 50%. And a lot of that's because I understand these housing programs. I understand permanent supportive housing and the housing first policies, and they work. We've seen the state of Utah basically eliminate veteran homelessness because they made it a goal and they came together. And that's what I want to be put into place, because we're only going to close that gap if the school district, the university, the county, the hospitals, the Chamber of Commerce are all coming together and committing to this and saying, no more, we're not going to let people live on our streets. No more, we're not going to let these individuals go without health care, go without mental health care, because it impacts all of us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Denzil.
So I think we have already started looking at how we're going to bridge the gap. Right now, we're in the process of building a 60-bed unit for mental health and substance abuse, advanced behavior. I think that could really be a game changer for this community. The governor has put out $135 million to build facilities that will help people in different communities deal with their mental health issues, with their substance use issues. So those are the type of things that I would like to see in this community, because that will help people. They got help, got the resources, help them get back on their feet, and they can start being productive residents in this community. So I think with the advantage behavioral health coming online, which is probably be about a year and a half, I think that could possibly be a game changer for this community, where people who need assistance, who need help, who need wraparound service, can go there and get that help and really help them to move forward with their life and with their careers.
When we talk about health and specifically mental health, I'm a licensed psychologist and have over 15, probably close to 20 years of experience working with individuals across the spectrum of disorders, from the working well to what we would consider more persistent mental health concerns. Most people who experience mental health concerns will not seek therapy. There are a variety of different barriers that exist. And so what I believe is then that we have to put the resources in the community. One of the things I'm advocating for is a mobile mental health unit. It helps destigmatize mental health. It gives communities the information, the skills, and the resources they need to actually be able to help the communities that they exist in. We can't necessarily rely on one institution or state hospitals. We cannot pathologize the stressors that our community is experiencing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do not have enough wraparound services to serve our people. That's the reality. I would like to examine what we have, and one of the things that I learned in the model that I work for as a regional director for the TAP Economical Development Project in Atlanta is pulling our resources together with corporate, with community, and social organizations like this, Delta, Theta Theta, and pulling our professionals together to find the answers. I would have a summit to have real discussions and be able to look at our budget and find external revenue to help bridge the gap.
Thank you so much. As my coach used to tell me, this is good food. Athens family, I hope you are enjoying what you are hearing. Question number 5 is concerning the water crisis. Mr. Denson, we will start with you. As Athens expands, how will you, as potential mayor, address the Pinewoods water crisis?
So that should have never happened in the first place. And I'll get into how we avoid that going forward. But however we move forward, we have to make sure we're doing it in a way that's benefiting the residents there, who have been the ones that are actually been suffering from this situation. Whatever we do, if we go in and simply just build out the infrastructure, we can't just do that, because then the landlord who created this problem is going to be the one that gets the benefit from it. Now, again, it shouldn't have happened in the first place, and that's why one of the first things I will do if I'm elected mayor is create an Office of Tenant Protections, so that tenants can be reporting when there's issues going on in their community, and they can be getting those things logged here on the county level, and so that they can be using those things when they go to court. They can be getting assistance with legal action if they need to take legal action. If we need to get code enforcement in place, having citations happening. For too long, tenants have been on the wrong side of it. Tenants have paid their rent on their house.
Thank you so much, Mr. Denson. We now will move to Mr. Fisher.
Well, thank you. I probably was the only candidate who started talking about infrastructure as this campaign kicked off. Unfortunately, when we did unification, one of the things that charter had demanded that we had infrastructure, water, and sewer in place. Well, that hasn't happened. So we got to play catch up. So one of the things that I would do, if we do another splash vote, that those dollars will go towards building up our infrastructure and replacing the failing infrastructure that we got in place now. The things that happened at Pinewood will not have happened. So we have failed this community because we didn't do what we said we was going to do. So now we're playing catch up, and now it's only on us that we build up our infrastructure, sewer, and water, so this whole community can have those resources, to have good clean drinking water, and have sewer. A lot of people on septic tanks. And if those things start bursting, it creates all kinds of environmental issues. So for me, I understand infrastructure and know how to get that done.
Thank you so much. Dr. Gann.
Thank you. As it relates to the water crisis, as mentioned, there are a variety of different concerns that communities that are forgotten about experience. And so with the Pinewood situation, we have the Pinewood situation, we have Pitt Road, we have the Quarry. There are just a lot of different situations in Athens that I think we've allowed to linger. One of the approaches that I believe is important, this goes back to our SPOS projects, is we need to be more intentional about how we are going to spend our SPOS dollars to tackle problems that have been long-standing problems. We don't need 30 projects on SPLOST, and I'm just giving that as an example. But if we know that we've had an infrastructure issue, as mentioned earlier, it should not have happened. But if we know that we have an infrastructure issue, then what we need to be talking about right now is how we actually narrow our focus if
Thank
we
you
are
so much,
going to
Dr.
have
Gann.
our SPLOST.
We are now moving to Ms. Miller.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I would do is that I would ask the citizens to bear with my leadership to make an assessment on infrastructure. What happened to Pinewood is deplorable. It should have never happened, and we have to make sure that we safeguard that it never happens again. So I would put a hard look, because in the beginning of my first words, I said I'm policy driven. I would look at the policies and see what guidelines must be taken along in cooperation with our commissioners and our city managers, and review where we can find the money to get it done.
Thank you so much, Ms. Miller. Next, Ms. Zuniga.
So I hear this a lot. It shouldn't have happened. But it did happen. And it happened under the watch of existing policymakers. So my question is, what did they do? Because I know that citizens have gone and written to commissioners, have gone to the commissioner and mayor at input time. It hasn't been to deaf ears because they hear the complaints. There are people out there that don't have clean houses, safe spaces. It's not just about water. At Pinewood, there's also Pitter. Let's not forget what happened in Pitter. Years and years of people complaining. And that's what I see, is that it's easy to say, well, we know it shouldn't have happened. What did the policymakers do? We keep talking about these things year after year and saying, yes, something should be done. My question is, what should we do? Well, we should begin with new leadership, because the same politicians that are getting recycled
Thank you
and
so much, Ms.
repositioned are not doing the work.
Candidates, thank you so much for your passion with answering the question.
Thank you. We will now move on to our discussion of transportation, and Mr. Fisher, we'll begin with you. Will you expand Athens transit routes and run buses more often to improve access for low-income and underserved communities? And will you keep it 100% fare-free? If so, how do you plan to do this?
1 minute?
1 minute, Mr.
So we do need to expand our transit. It doesn't go out further enough. It needs to start earlier and run later. However, that comes with a cost. In my opinion, it's going to be tougher as we move forward to continue fare-free. We can't afford not to have everybody participate in this process. It's got to be healthy. We're going to expand, especially if we're going into other counties, and we're asking, they want to do bus services, and they're going to need to kick in. When we was having, when people were paying, UJ was kicking in $1 million a year. We was collecting about $1.8 million in fares. All that went away. So to put the pressure on our transit to continue to go down this path, the economics doesn't work. You can't continue to expand, go farther, and then expect the transit to continue to survive. You can't do it. We're doing a study right now, looking at that. Hopefully by late July,
Thank you,
first of
Mr.
August,
Fisher.
we have that information.
Thank you so much. All right, Dr. Gann.
I think it is important that people have access to the basic rights to get to their jobs, to care for their kids, to be able to take care of all of the other responsibilities that they have. I believe that we also have to evaluate how our transit system is working. And I know that we have a study that shared with us increased ridership. I've spoken with people just in this past week or two who have to sit at bus stops that are not covered, who have asked for better lighting because they have to go to work in the wee hours of the morning. And so I argue that as we think about expanding, we first have to evaluate the practices and the resources that we have so that we can shore those up for people that are accessing our transit system. I do not buy that we cannot afford
Thank you, Dr.
to
Gannett.
improve those things.
From this side of the seat, I would not even try to answer if I would consider expanding unless I first view the budget. But what I will do first day in is that I would begin to prepare for the mayor's competition with Michael's Bloomsboro Philanthropist Program under the application of transportation to secure and see if our city could be awarded additional funding to help in that particular area. It is something that it is needed to be and stay 100% fare free. Who wouldn't want that? We need it for our disenfranchised citizens and even some of us who want to ride sometimes. So yes for one part, no until there's still full accessibility and review.
Having lived in a major city for a long time, like New York, where it's very walkable and mass transportation is so accessible to get just anywhere, I understand the need to expand the buses. But I also understand that we need revenue, you know? So I do think that when people are looking for a job or lower income families or people that can't afford the bus, yes, we should have vouchers. We should really have vouchers. But for everybody else that can't pay, I mean, it would help towards the expansion of buses. And, you know, this is what we want. If you can pay, you should be able to pay. It gives you a stake and a say in how things should be run. And I do believe that we need to follow through with those things like that. When you say free, is it really free? The money has to come from somewhere, you know? So if it's not coming from one area, it has to come from another one. It's not free, but we should help disenfranchised people have a voucher and ride the bus for free.
So, 100% yes, I would keep Athens Transit zero fare, and I would also work to expand Athens Transit System. Again, how? By creating that inclusionary parking ordinance. When I'm bringing these ideas forward, I'm also bringing forward the way that we actually pay for them. So with inclusionary parking ordinance, we would have reduce the number of unused parking spaces that you see all the time when you're driving down the road, and instead that money could go into building out infrastructure and funding our public transit system. We do talk about, yes, the fare boxes did bring in a little under $2 million. What's not talked about is to have those fare boxes costed us about $800,000 a year. So we're spending $800,000 a year to raise about $1 million. And then when we go back to the vouchers, when you talk to the homeless service providers, when you talk to the clinics, before we had zero fare public transit system, you know what their number one expenditure was? Buying bus passes. We were giving nonprofits money, the county was, so that they could go and buy bus passes back from us.
Thank you, Mr. Denson, and thank you to all of our candidates for answering those advanced questions. So at this time, we will move into our lightning round. So here are the rules. There will be one lightning round question. Each candidate will have 45 seconds to address this question. Again, let's refer back to our rules of engagement and refrain from crosstalk and interruptions. Rebuttals will only be allowed if another candidate addresses you directly, and then at that time you will have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Dr. Gant, we will start with you this time. Our lightning round question is, drum roll please, no, I'm just kidding. Why is your leadership better for Athens than that of your opponents?
We need a leader who is skilled in listening, a leader who is skilled in problem solving, a leader who is skilled in compromising, and most importantly, you need a leader who is bold, but who is not removed from the regular everyday struggles of regular everyday people. And when you have that in a leader, there's an urgency to solve problems. But when you have leaders who are far removed from regular people, we don't share the same urgency. And so I believe, based on my skill set, based on my governance experience, and based on my lived experience as a native of Athens, that I am the person to be mayor of Athens.
We're going to go with Ms. Miller next.
I want to make sure I answer this question. I believe that I am the candidate for such a time as this because of the duality of my skills. I'm more than just a clergy. I bring to this candidacy the duality of a leader who is skilled in federal initiatives, policy-driven, and of course, I'm not a polished politician, but I do understand the human experience from the first breath to the last. I've done that. I've seen people at their lowest. I've seen people at their highest height. And I've been there to engage them in the process. And I'll be that bridge over our troubled waters to help us narrate and move through the success that I want to see us move beyond just being the county that's identified with being the poorest. I want us to rise above that image.
Thank
And
you
I
so
want
much,
to take
Ms. Miller.
Athens to higher height. Thank you.
Plain and simple, old leadership dressed up as new leadership hasn't worked and will not work. So we need new leadership with the skill sets that has done job creation in the past, that understands income, revenue and expenses, someone that will look out for the community and their interest. That's the kind of new leadership that we need, someone that will show transparency, that will sit at the table and incorporate the citizens of our community. We have had too many citizens in this town coming to local leaders in other positions wanting some relief in their taxes, and they've done the opposite to that. And taxes are hurting people, not
Thank
only
you so much,
homeowners,
Ms.
but
Zuniga.
renters as well.
And Mr. Benson?
So I ran for mayor 12 years ago, and the biggest criticism that I got back then, which was valid, was that people said, Tim's got great ideas, but he doesn't have the experience to get it done. He hasn't done these things before. And that was valid. So what I spent the last 12 years doing is getting that experience. Serving on the vision committee, serving on the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing, working as a county commissioner for 4 years, on the school board for 4 years, doing community organizing for over a decade, and went on the commission getting bold things done. I ran on a zero fare public transit system 12 years ago. Guess what we got in place? A zero fare public transit system. I ran on us having an eviction prevention program. We got that place, kept 800 families in their homes instead of being evicted.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benson and Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. For me, I'm the only candidate up here with budget and managed millions of dollars. Only candidate up here have employed over 500 people that work for me. Only candidate here who have promoted people, especially people of color, people, women. I'm the only candidate for 2 years where he have cut our property taxes. No commission before us has done that. So I've done the work. I understand that work. Until you sit behind that rail and understand what needs to happen, I know what needs to happen. I know how to get the job done. I know how to connect the dots. I know how to communicate with people. I know how to bring the community together. For me, that's what my leadership is about, is what my leadership has shown in the past.
Thank you. Electric lightning round, so thank you.
Now, we will commence to part 2 of our town hall. And we are now taking questions that were submitted from our live audience that are in attendance. So you all, we will read these questions and our panelists will have 1 minute to respond. The first question that came from you all is, what is your plan for supporting immigrants, documented and not, from the discrimination and harm they may experience due to ICE? And we will start with you, Ms. Miller.
This is a serious question. When you understand the layers of government and their positions, you have to understand that ICE is under the layer of federal. And if there are issues with ICE in our county, then we will yield to the leadership of our sheriff in partnership with whatever our ordinances are, but the mayor will be the safeguard to make sure that all citizens' rights are duly respected in this very vicious world of discrimination against those who are documented or non-documented. So I would yield in partnership with our sheriff, as we should we have this particular problem in our county.
Thank you so much, Ms. Miller. Ms. Zuniga.
let me say, we have a very caring Athens that I have to tell you. People here in Athens care and care passionately for their neighbors. Now, I started doing work with the Spanish community way before ICE came into the picture. I have been going out there since, I want to say since before I ran in 2022 here in Athens. But back when I was in New York, you have a high percentage of Hispanic people, documented and undocumented, that you help. Knowing the language, knowing Spanish, and knowing the culture is really helpful when you're trying to help people understand not only the misinformation, but the laws, you know? Now, I've been doing the work alongside with the police by going out to the communities and trying to gain trust from them so that they understand what the reality is in reference to the laws and immigration. That is super important. In order for people to feel safe, and we all want people to feel safe, is that they have to understand and be made part of those decisions.
We now have Mr. Denson.
Thank you. And yes, going back to 2016, before I was even on the commission, I worked with the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement and the Georgia ACLU to work with our sheriff's office here in Clarke County to no longer honor the ICE detainers. And unfortunately, the state legislature did a preemption law, walking that back, but I believe we still need to be getting creative, find ways that we can make sure that we're protecting the people here in Athens, documented and undocumented, letting them know that the leadership in City Hall stands with them. And I will do everything I can to block ICE from being able to come into this community. We will hear folks say that local governments can't do anything. We can just look right down the road at Social Circle. Social Circle, they tried to build that detention center. What did the local government did? They cut the water off on it. So to say that we can't do something, we can do something. And you know what? This is not a political issue. This is a moral issue that we're talking about here right now when it talks about ICE and stuff. And so I will do everything I can to protect the people of Athens.
Thank you so much. Mr. Fisher.
Same thing. Thank you, Tim, for that. I think that's great. And I think all of us up here understand the seriousness when it comes to our immigration citizens in this community. I think it's important that we do everything we can to protect them. One problem that I have with ICE is they do not reach out to our local law enforcement agencies. They just come in and take over. So our police, nor our sheriff know when they're coming in. So I think it's proven upon us. If we know they're coming, we need to notify that community so we can make sure that we protect them, make sure that their rights are not being violated, and we should do everything as a local government to make sure that they're not mistreated. So for me, I want to be on the front line to make sure that they are protected, make sure that information is put out to that community, and make sure that if our law enforcement is not going out locally, picking up documented or undocumented. So for me, I want to make sure that our immigration residents are supported and protected in this community.
Thank you so much. Dr. Gant.
Every now and then, if you feel that your hands are tied, one of the best things you can do with a community that is being oppressed, that is being dehumanized, that is being basically just sort of pushed down by federal government, is you can stand and acknowledge their humanity. And I don't think that we have done that collectively. Acknowledging individuals' humanity, yes, there are things outside of our control, absolutely. But that we have students in our county who are scared that their parents may not return. We have people in our county who are scared to drive. Those things are real issues. And it is very important, even when you cannot go against the federal government, to at least take a stand and recognize the humanity of our community.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gant. Ooh, these are good questions, audience.
These live questions are lively. We will now continue with questions from our audience. We talk a lot about the underrepresented and the underserved, and likely in terms of race most of the time, but this is an excellent question. What are your plans for helping and making job opportunities for the disabled and young people? And we will start with Mrs. Zuniga this time.
Our youth are important, and I have to say, having come from a family of 7, in the worst time that we could possibly think of. And education was the key that my parents saw in us, in conjunction with, of course, the business that was helping pay for our education. All of my brothers and sisters are highly educated, but they also are business savvy. So I do believe in encouraging business among the young people. So I am a job creator. That's one of my passions. I love entrepreneurship. For anybody that has ever met me one-on-one, I encourage young people to not only go and do good in school, but also think about a business. You know, some people practice both things. I mean, I know a doctor, he's a doctor, but he also has a business. And there are many people that do that. So as a previous job creator, I am the one candidate up here that has more than 40 years of experience for something to be tackled like that.
Mr. Denson?
Thank you for that question. That is a great question. One I don't think it has been talked about enough, and I'll admit, like, one that I haven't put enough thought into, and so I'm glad it's there in my head now. I think one of the great things is we have the Office of Belonging at the ACC government now that can really focus on this, and that is intentionally created to be a diverse group of individuals, including those with disabilities, including those who are young and old, to be able to see how we could be doing these kind of things more. And so I think one of the things that the county government can do better is supporting our school district, especially when it comes to the Career Academy. We've seen some steps recently, bringing together the Leisure Services partnership between the school district and the county to help kids. And I would like to see the county take a larger step in to try to make sure that our Career Academy is really working, making sure that the other partners here with our Chamber of Commerce, with our unions, are stepping up and being able to be part of that so that we can expand that. And same thing with, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Denson.
I think it's so critical, especially when it comes to our young people, that we first of all make sure that they have opportunity and resources in job creation, make sure that doing their studies. The most important thing, one of the things I did several weeks ago, and I'm gonna give a shout out to see the show. I went over to that school. They have an automotive program by far as one of the best in the state. You ever seen those young men and young women in that shop work and learn how to fix vehicles and stuff? They can leave that program and go to a car dealership and make $70,000 a year. Those are the type of things that we need to be focusing on young people. Our Career Academy, I chaired that Career Academy several years ago. Those pathways that they got there, those are the type of things we need to be pushing our young people towards. 4-year degrees are great, but you can get a degree or certificate in 12 to 18 months and go out making $65,000 to $70,000 at 22 and 23 years old. Those are the type of programs that I like to be pushing. Like things like partner with our school district to make those things work.
Dr. Gant?
Thank you. I'm going to try to talk quick so I can get everything in. So with our young people, I will say that it is very important that we support the partnerships between CCSD and ACC Gov. A lot of what has been referenced here happened under my leadership, and I do think it's important for me to point that out as former president of the board. I will also say I want to focus on our communities that are part of the disabled community. I had the wonderful privilege of a couple of weeks ago to sit with families, friends, and community members that are a part of the deaf and hard of hearing community. And I was just sort of blown by some of the experiences that they have here in our community with a variety of different people, going to medical offices, engaging with law enforcement, being treated fairly with jobs. And so we're always saying there are a lot of jobs,
Thank you, Dr. Gant. That was
we have to listen.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Miller.
I want to say that the disabled community, you rock. We see you. We want to make sure that your needs are met. As a mayor, I would like to take the leadership to find partnership, to strengthen the partnerships that are already on the table, to make sure that those who are of the disabled population will receive the dignity for employment, and they deserve that particular opportunity. Next month, the University of Georgia will host a family resource for the disabled. And I found that intriguing. And I said, wow, I would love, if you had been mayor, to have partnership with some of our residents and some of our parents from the school district to be a part of that, to gain the information. So I would look and seek out finding partnership that can be in real time to help our disabled community.
Thank you so much for that. I do want to give a gentle reminder to please make sure your phones are turned off. We would appreciate that. But I'm also going to say one of our audience members are a little bit ready to tussle with this question. But it's important to ask candidates, if you belong to a political party, which one? It was not us. Mr. Denson, we'll start with you.
Who did you vote for in 2024?
Yes, I am a member of the Democratic Party. I've actually been, I was the former chair of the Athens-Clarke County Democratic Committee, which is meeting tonight, and I was actually getting a text message that I was supposed to be there, but obviously I didn't. But yeah, I've actually been chair of the Athens-Clarke County Democrats for 4 years. And not only that, but worked in this community so hard to get Democrats elected here. I mean, I've knocked on literally thousands of doors for John Ossoff, for Raphael Warnock, for Stacey Abrams, for up and down the ballot, for the Public Service Commission race that we just flipped a couple seats because Georgia Power and all these other power things are charging way too much. Energy costs are way too high. So getting those seats flipped there. So yeah, I've proudly been working with the Democrats for years, and yeah, I stand by it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. And as you all know, this is a nonpartisan election. And for me, though, I've always made bones about it, haven't made no bones about it. I've always been a Democrat, always voted that way. However, though, you have to be the mayor for everybody. If not a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, because when you pick up the phone and call me, I'm not going to ask you for your political affiliation. I'm going to ask you what can I do to help you. So we need to get out of this stuff about Democrat, Republican, independent. We need to be supporting people in this community to make sure we get things done. So, yeah, I voted Democrat my whole life, but this is a nonpartisan election, and I think we need to understand that.
Thank you so much. Dr. Gann.
Thank you. I'll add that I am a Democrat. I will also add that Athens has typically been what they call a blue city. And regardless of which party individuals belong to, I think we will acknowledge that there is work to be done within our political system, that our political systems they are great, right? We love democracy, but there are some broken aspects of our systems. Athens is a blue city, but we continue to experience oppression. We continue to experience some of the same housing issues that we have had for a long time. We have communities that are without water, that are communities of color. And so I think that, so yes, I am a proud Democrat. I am also a person who seeks to better whatever system I am a part of.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gann. Ms. Miller.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've heard this question before, and I was the first to say this is nonpartisan. I have, in my adult life as a voter, voted as a Democrat, but I am very skilled in negotiating across the lines to address issues, regardless of one's political affiliation. I want to be a leader who not just say that in theory, but that you can see that in action, that we build partnership. There will never be true equality, but we can invite others to the table for progress and what we're trying to accomplish here in Athens-Clarke County.
Thank you. And lastly, Ms. Lee.
Hello? Okay. So I hear this a lot from people. I wish there was a third party. Because a lot of people don't associate with Democrats or Republicans, actually. And when I sat down and I thought about myself, I said, I'm fiscally conservative, but I'm socially inclusive. Where does that fall on the spectrum, right? I think about that. And the reality is, I think a lot of people fall into that fiscally conservative and socially inclusive. I have not met people here in Athens, whether they're Republican or Democrats, at least not the people that I speak to on an everyday basis, that want to exclude people. They just want solutions. And they want them to be done wisely, economically. As our city manager said in that article that I quoted before, we cannot continue on this economic path that we're going to. We cannot. That's the city manager saying that in an article just today. We cannot continue on that path. So that means all this spending, all these initiatives that we're thinking of.
Thank you, Ms. Zuniga. Thank you so much. We will now move on to our next question.
Awesome, thank you. We talked a lot about our adult population, and again, I discussed those that are underrepresented and underserved, and some of those being children. So the question posed is, almost 25% of our children face food insecurity. What policies do you propose, or what programs have you already spearheaded to address this urgent need? And Mr. Fisher will begin with you.
Well, we just this year gave $200,000 to the Northeast Georgia Food Bank to help with some of those insecurities in this community. I think it's vital, and I'm saying our school district does a great job of taking care of our kids, especially on the weekends. We send food home to those children, and that's vital. And I think we need to make sure we continue to do those type of things. There are so many churches and faith-based communities that are doing food drives on a consistent basis. So those are the type of things, as a community, and this is a giving and loving community, we're gonna have to continue to do these things. We need to make sure that nobody in this community goes hungry. It's vital that we take care of the people that live here, and that we provide those resources and those needs for. So I think we have to bring in our faith-based community to help with that. We have to bring in our business communities to make sure those dollars are there to continue to support the Northeast Georgia Food Bank, and they do a great job. And they serve a 10-county region.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Dr. Gann.
Thank you. A few things. I would love to see us partner with local organizations, from faith-based to other organizations, to be sure that our children, not just our children, but our elderly community, that they have their needs met, their food needs met. I think the work that the food bank is doing is wonderful. I would also like to leverage our community. Many of us have a lot of food waste. We cook food, we have food, we throw it away, we have food for days, and I don't think we have realized quite yet how we can actually leverage our power as a community to be sure that children, elderly, and families do not go hungry. And so I would like to see us explore all of those possibilities. Obviously, continue to support the food bank, but most times people need food that is already prepared. And I think we have an opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Gann. Ms. Miller?
I've been on the cutting line in feeding the hungry and leading a food bank for 7 years of my ministry. One of the challenges that happens as it relates to faith-based, you have to have the 501c status. I would like to explore to see what ministries might be interested in getting that and getting them the resources to make that happen, so they too can become a part of the linkages in feeding those who are underdeserved as it relates to food. So yes, it is a problem. It's necessary that we partner, and I would take the lead in making that happen for community.
Well, I have to say, we all take opportunities to help people. That's why all of us are running for mayor. We're looking for the need to help the community. But when you look at stats, like 63% of those living with food insecurity are below the SNAP threshold. And yet we're building trails and bikes. And we have enough money for other things. So my question is, why do we have money for some things and not for others? Food is very important, especially to our children. So do we have a problem with prioritizing what we should be having at the top, which is the welfare of our people? Yes, we have a problem. That's why we need new leadership, someone who's going to look at the situation in a different way. Maybe an immigrant that has seen such problems in her own personal life and among her own community. We really do need to prioritize, because we do have money in Athens. It's just being misallocated and misappropriated.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Booth. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Nigga.
I don't know if there's a bigger sign that society, we're failing our society, not just the government, everywhere, that we have such large numbers of people and children going hungry. I grew up on food stamps, getting free lunch, getting made fun of because of it. I'm glad we have universal free lunches here with the school district. I think it's one of the best in the school district has done here. But it's absolutely deplorable that we let this happen. Whenever I was on the commission, we put in place the Athens Eats program during the pandemic. And it continued on for years. And that program made it where you didn't have to wait in a parking lot in your car sitting there for an hour trying to get your box of food. Instead, we guaranteed no matter who you were, no barrier. If you put in said you needed food, we had a driver go and drop that food off to you every single week. I think we need to bring back the Athens Eats program, and it's also why I am prioritizing with our SPLOST dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Thank you so much.
These are quality questions. If you all cannot tell, we're trying to go through and figure out which one really speaks to the people. Please forgive us. But this question is about economics and taxes. What will you do as mayor to lower property taxes or to keep them from rising for citizens and for seniors? We will start with Mr. Fisher.
As I stated earlier, I'm the only one candidate that's running to lower our millage rate for 2 years. We worked out the commission together, because when the mayor gave us the budget, he had not lowered the millage, and we lowered that millage. I led that charge. One of the things we started, again, I talked about this earlier, about looking at economic development and how we can start spurring some of that industry. Again, I think it's important that when we start looking at our seniors and people who can't afford to stay in the houses getting pushed out, we've got the homestead exemption that we put into place. And I think once you get 65 or older, you should not pay any property taxes. Right now, our millage is at 12.45. Our school district is at 18. When you get your bill, your higher bill is the school district. The lower bill is property taxes, but we have done as the government to lower those property taxes. So I will continue to look how we can do that and make sure we also take care of our priorities.
Thank you so much. Dr. Gann.
Yes, two things come to mind. It is very important because we have individuals who are in their homes and they are behind on their taxes. They honestly just don't have the resources. And then as a result, they are forced to sell because they can't afford what was naturally before an affordable place. One is I found that a lot of people are not aware of the homestead exemption. I know that those of us here may be, but there are a lot of people in our community that have no idea. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to access it. They don't know who they need to talk to. So first is our job to be sure that not just that information is accessible, but also that we have support, especially for our aging population who find themselves in these situations. Secondly, I want to just quickly say,
Thank you so much. Ms. Miller.
Dr. Gant, I was going to give you a few minutes, but this is taking it all for myself. Listen, this whole thing about housing for our seniors is very real. Okay? I would look, and I can't make any promises from this side of the seat, but I would look at our budget and whatever our commissioners, let me salute the work that they may have worked toward to maintain that millage, to see what else can be done strategically to make sure it holds, because I believe all of us need a hold on our taxes. So I would analyze, I would review, and it may be necessary for us to up and find ways to get the communication of what people do not know and how to save and go after savings for the homestead. We need to get that information out
so much, Ms. Miller.
for our citizens.
Ms. Nika.
First, let me say, when you vote on a proposed policy, that's not coming up with the policy. I would like to thank Carol Myers and Mike Candy for taking that initiative. I know that it takes a lot of work to look at a budget and start trying to see where you can keep things at their level and where you can cut, and it's not an easy job. But I come back to what the city manager says. We cannot continue on this path. If we continue to put the priorities that are not priorities for our citizens, where is it going to come from? Taxes, either in your real estate taxes or your sales taxes. So it's not a matter of we can have all these brilliant ideas and we can just all say that we're going to do something. I think that's irresponsible to be saying that you're going to do some things or initiatives without looking at where we stand. You know, we keep taking from our reserves, and we are at a critical
We
point.
appreciate it. Mr. Denson.
Yes, thank you. And so, yeah, whenever I was in the commission, I helped draft the first ever in the state low-income homestead exemption for homeowners here in Athens-Clarke County. It got passed so that homeowners who were under 200% of the federal poverty level would have their taxes frozen so that they wouldn't be getting gentrified and taxed out of their homes. I've been pushing for us to put in the same place that same policy here for Clarke County School District also, because I believe we need to have that same policy in place. Because I do believe that we need to have relief. I don't think that necessarily just because somebody's over the age of 65, they need to no longer pay taxes. Because if there's somebody who has a $20 million home with a giant parcel of land and they're over 65, I think they should still pay taxes. I think that every single person, every homeowner that's under poverty should not have to, no matter what their age. Because that's how they actually force people out of their homes. So I look at that problem a little bit different. But definitely the homestead exemptions, we need to get the word out more and make sure we can be doing that with the neighborhood leaders too.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our candidates. We have one more question from the audience. The question is two-part, I presume. What will you do about flock cameras? Will you or will you not get rid of them? And for background, flock cameras are the AI-powered cameras such as license plate readers that store data for up to 30 days and are used to help reduce crime. HOAs use them as well. So what will you do about flock cameras? Will you or will you not get rid of them? And we will start with Dr. Gant.
Okay, go quick. So I think that we have gone overboard with surveillance. I think that there's always going to be a need that we can justify the use of surveillance, but there has to be a balance. Yes, is it important to solve crime? Absolutely. We've been able to solve crime with other resources, and I think it's such a slippery slope. One of the challenges to me with our camera systems, and not just that, but even when I think of like our real-time crime center and things like that, we can't seem to use this when, let's just say, an elderly person goes missing, okay? Or when we really need these resources. So when we start pairing surveillance just to solve crime, that slope becomes very slippery. And before you know it, then we are in a surveil community, and more than likely, poor communities are the ones being impacted by that.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, AI will be with us forever and always. So we have to adjust our lives to that. I think the question said, will you decide to stop them? Well, the question has to be raised, the implementation of them in the first place. And I cannot answer from this side, but I would analyze if it's successful, the stats, what are we saying, what does public safety say? And if any decisions to be made, the mayor puts it on the agenda, the commissioner has the review, and they make the vote. But I support that our community remains safe, and we maintain a safe community for all people, but without biasness. And so that's my take on it as a candidate from this side of the seat.
I've spoken to a few people downtown where they tell me that there have been fights and brawls and a lot of situations that are problematic. And I asked them, well, what happened to the police? And they said, well, we don't see any police presence. So when I think about the flock cameras, yes, anything can be misused, but we're gonna have to decide, are we gonna want more police presence? Or are we gonna not want police presence and put cameras? Because either way, we have to, address the crime in our community. So it's either one way or the other, I am for more police presence and training them more and giving them the tools that they need to be in the community, whether that is getting them from within another community and having them live here or engaging in the community. But we really need either less flock cameras and more police officers, or if you're going to decide to have less police officers and more flock cameras. And I think that's a conversation that we need to have with some follow-up action.
Mr. Benson?
I do oppose the use of the flock cameras here. Here's the thing, is those cameras are recording all of us here in this room right now. Our license plates, where we go. Did y'all do something wrong on your way here? Are y'all gonna commit a crime on your way home from here? No, we're not. So why are we being surveilled? That's a thing we really need to think about. Our privacy is important. Every Athenian's privacy is important. And it is a very slippery slope, especially when it's one thing even to have these cameras, but then you're hiring a giant corporation, for-profit corporation, to not only run those cameras, but also to hold the data that has your pictures of you, your family, your cars, your license plate in it, and then who knows where they decide they might want to sell it to. I mean, a big thing that's coming up is that shopping centers and stores will start using this data. So when they see you walk in and walk down an aisle, all of a sudden the digital prices go up because they know that you've paid a higher price for that product.
Thank you so much, Mr. Denson.
It's not fair to us, and Athens-Clarke County should not be allowed that happen.
And lastly, Mr. Fisher?
So with the flock cameras and the real-time crime center, I think one thing we need to think about though, again, we want to make sure that this community is safe. And I say this, we had 2 assaults downtown the last 2 weeks. Young lady got raped, another got assaulted. Those individuals were caught within 24 hours. Those cameras are not there. Those people are probably still on the street. I'm gonna push back a little bit on Dr. Gadd. There was a young lady, a student, who was sleepwalking downtown, didn't know, we found her on the real-time crime center. She could have got hit, anything could have happened. But the officers found her, brought her home safe. So things like that is critical, especially to families and the people that we serve. So we can't have it both ways. You can't say we want to have safety, but then then who you gonna call? So you got to balance that.
Thank you so much, candidates. That ends the portion of the live audience questions. We didn't get there. Oh, one more. She was named, so we will get 30 seconds. My apologies.
I just want to follow up and say that we can always justify the use of surveillance. We can always justify the use of surveillance. There are thousands of people that go through downtown, thousands of people in Athens, tens of thousands of people that do not commit crime. And I don't